and welcome back to another tutorial with me, Jade at So Jealous in Plymouth. Today we are continuing with our crochet fundamentals, and in this video we're going to learn about the slip knot, we're going to learn about creating our foundation chain, and we're going to talk briefly about a turning chain and what that means. This video is designed to work with other videos that we will have created and have on the website, including some basic stitches like single crochet, half double crochet, etc. So the first thing that we need to talk about is the materials that I'm using. So for the purposes of this tutorial, I have a 5.5 metal crochet hook, and I'm using a chunky size yarn that I've just pulled from my stash. It's a little bit of scrap yarn. So those are the materials that I am using today. So the first thing that we're going to discuss about how to complete is the slip knot. Now the slip knot's really important. It is one of the most basic and first steps that you'll need to do in order to create any kind of crochet fabric. If you're doing amigurumi, you would use a magic ring technique, so it's slightly different to this. But if you are making blankets, garments, scarves, things like that, the slip knot is how you begin your project. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that your tail is to the left of you, and then you need to drape your yarn as such over your fingers. So I call this an elongated upside down U. Don't know why. And what you're going to do is you're going to take those strands and you're going to twist them and you're going to turn them sideways, and you'll see that I have this sort of cross or cat's cradle type look here. And then you're going to take your thumb and forefinger through the gap, the triangle on the left. And what you want to do is you want to, in a pincer motion, grab the yarn that I'm pointing to. And you'll see that by doing this, you have the yarn, but you've also created this loop across your thumb and pointer finger. And all you're going to do is take the yarn in your pincer grip and pull it through and pull tight like so. And that creates your slip knot. So let's do this again, making sure that your tail is to the left of you, which is really important. You're going to take your yarn and make this elongated U shape. You're going to twist and turn it sideways. And then you're going to, in a pincer motion with your thumb and pointer finger, come up from the bottom left-hand side, grab the yarn on the opposite side and pull through the loop that's created on your thumb and pointer finger and pull tight. Now, the next thing that you need to do is you need to make sure that your tail end, this is the short end, is facing you. It's sitting towards the top, and your working tail yarn, which is attached to your ball, is sat on the bottom. And then you're going to insert your crochet hook and you're going to pull your short tail, and by pulling that you'll see that the knot slips tighter up to the crochet hook. Now when you come to pull your tail, you want to make sure that you don't pull it too tight, and you want to make sure that for purposes of creating your chain, you're working with your yarn that is attached to your ball band. That's really important. If you work with the tail, you will end up with not enough yarn to complete your foundation chain. Now, I'm a firm believer that you should hold your hook however you feel comfortable, but there are two grips. So here is the pencil grip. This is a very quick method to crochet, and here is the knife grip, which isn't as quick as the pencil grip when it comes to crochet, but it is considered to be more kind on your joints. How you hold your hook is up to you. I believe you should do what feels comfortable. I don't believe there is a right or a wrong way if you manage to achieve the same effect. So what we also need to do is we need to, as well as holding our hook, make sure that we keep tension throughout our yarn. And I will show you my tension setup. So in order to complete tension, I wrap it around my baby finger like so, and then I will pull it over the front of my next two fingers, and then around and behind my pointer finger, and I have it coming down over the top. And then my thumb and my third finger are used to hold the bottom of my work. And you can see there that my baby finger is doing all of the work in terms of controlling my tension, and my yarn should be able to pull through quite smoothly. And by holding the knot that's at the bottom of the crochet hook there, I am keeping my tension taut but still freely movable through my fingers. So you can see here my slip knot has been tightened, so it's close to my hook but not so tight that I can't move it. There's a small gap. That's really important. And then the art of creating my foundation chain. I will hold my loop on my hook ever so slightly, check that my tension is correct, and then I'm going to come from behind, wrapping around to the front of my crochet hook with my yarn. And I want to make sure that my crochet hook and yarn is sat in the throat. And then I'm going to twist and I'm going to pull through the loop on my hook. So again, I'm going to hold my stitch on my hook. I'm going to wrap from behind to the front, making sure the yarn sits in the throat of my crochet hook. Then I'm going to twist my crochet hook so it's facing down. And then I'm going to pull that yarn through the hoop loop that's already on my crochet hook. So from behind to the front, making sure the yarn is in the throat, I'm going to twist so it's facing down, and then I'm going to pull through the loop that I already have on my crochet hook. And that is creating your foundation chain. This is essentially chaining, and each motion that you go through is a chain 1. So here I've got a little run of stitches, and you can see that these stitches create this sort of V shape here. And I've got a bottom and a top side of my V shape, which I'm just pointing out here. And that's important because when you come to work back along your foundation chain, you'll be working in between that V shape. But I just want to briefly show that to you here. We will go into this in a bit more detail. So continuing to chain, what you'll do is you'll chain some, then you'll move your hand and you'll chain some more. And I'm just showing you this sort of fluid motion. It's more of a rhythm than anything else. And then you can see that we build upon the chain. And I'm just further pointing out that V shape for you here as well. And just to further help you, if you've got our pack, you'll see that you're going to be working in between the V, so sort of the bottom point of the V. Now, before we go on, I just want to talk to you about the breakdown of the stitch in a bit more detail. So again, I'm pointing out this V shape. We've got a left hand and a right hand side of the V, and they point down at a diagonal to form the bottom. And you'll see if you hold it sideways, you've got the little first part of the V, the little slant, that equates to a stitch. And I'm just pointing out here the stitch. And you need to know that for when it comes to work back along your foundation chain, which I call the foundation row. So that is the structure of your foundation chain. It creates these little V shapes, and every slightly angled stitch along the top will help you to know how many you have hooked or created in your chain. Now the next thing to discuss here is the turning chain, and what you will find is that your pattern will tell you to chain more than what you'll end up working. And the reason for that is the stitch at the end creates like a ladder to make sure that when you work back along your row, you're working to the correct height, which I've just shown you there. The end stitch sort of ladders up, and that allows you to work back along your foundation chain at the correct height. So don't be alarmed if a pattern says chain 21 and then it will tell you to start in the second chain from the hook and you only end up with 20 stitches. The reason for that is that 21st stitch has become your turning chain, and dependent on the stitch that you're doing will dictate how many you leave as your turning chain. So just to demonstrate here, this is your last chain. So that's your first chain closest to your hook, and your pattern will tell you to work in the second chain along for a single crochet, and that's because that top stitch is being left as your turning chain, which acts as a ladder to make sure that your row as you work across it starts at the correct height. So that's a little bit of information about a turning chain that I wanted to share with you. So let's put all of this together, everything that we've just learnt, let's put this all together. So we're creating our slip knot here, our tail is to the left, we're twisting and turning, we're coming up underneath in a pincer motion, grabbing the yarn on the opposite side and pulling through that loop and pulling taut. We are making sure that our tail is resting on top, so we want that to be facing us, and then we're going to stick our crochet in the loop, pull that short tail to tighten the slip knot to our crochet hook. And remember, we want it close to the hook but not so close that we can't move the hook through it. And then we're going to hold our tail out of the way And using the working yarn, the yarn attached to the ball band, I'm going to get my tension, and then I'm going to wrap from behind to the front, making sure that my yarn is in the throat of the crochet hook. I'm going to twist my crochet hook so it's facing downwards, and I'm going to pull through the loop. And you can see here what I'm doing is I'm pulling my chain downwards to create more tension. So I'm using my thumb and my third finger to pull my work down, and this creates more room for my crochet hook to pass through the stitch. So that is your slip knot and foundation chain, and I hope that you found this useful.